Chrisean Rock just walked herself into a corner she may never walk out of, and the corner she stepped into on that live stream is the kind of corner that ends careers, ends freedom, and in some cases ends lives. Chrisean Rock did not stumble into this. Chrisean Rock sprinted into this at full speed with a smile on her face and a camera pointed at her chest. And what came out of her mouth over the last 72 hours is the sort of confession that homicide detectives replay on projectors while eating cold pizza at 3 in the morning. Chrisean Rock is not the story of a young woman making a mess of her love life on the internet anymore. Chrisean Rock is now, whether her fans want to admit it or not, the story of a woman who put a match to her own alibi on camera, live, in front of hundreds of thousands of people. And thankfully, if the state of California is paying any attention at all, Chrisean Rock is exactly where the state of California should be pointing its magnifying glass right now. Because what dropped on that stream is not gossip. It is not a bit. It is not a punchline. It is a paper trail with a face on it, and the face is Chrisean Rock, and the trail leads to a place nobody in her camp wants to talk about out loud. Now before anybody jumps in and asks what she supposedly did to earn a sentence like that, the actual question underneath all of this is a much bigger question, because it is not what Chrisean Rock did on that stream. It is what Chrisean Rock did before the stream, what she keeps letting slip on the stream, and what the internet is now stitching together in real time. Chrisean Rock has effectively become the star witness against herself, and Blueface, ever the businessman, has become the co-star of a reality show that has quietly turned into evidence. And the wildest part of this whole arc, the part that separates it from every other reality television meltdown of the last 5 years, is that Chrisean Rock does not seem to know she is on trial. Chrisean Rock thinks she is on a promo run. Chrisean Rock thinks she is building a fan base. Chrisean Rock thinks the tears and the threats and the shopping trips and the punches are all just seasoning for the next music drop. Meanwhile, in a completely different room, in a completely different building, in a completely different city, people who wear suits for a living are watching the same clips and writing down timestamps. Both of them, and this is the part one want everybody to sit with for a full second, have openly said the reason they keep pulling up on each other is money. Chrisean Rock said it. Blueface said it. They said it in front of the mic. They said it in front of the chat. They said it with receipts. Chrisean Rock stood there and confirmed that a single afternoon of the two of them acting out for the camera pulled in around $60,000. $60,000. For a shopping trip that felt like somebody let a fever break loose inside a Burberry store. And that is where the whole thing starts to tilt, because Chrisean Rock still, somehow, thinks Blueface is hanging around because Blueface is in love with her. Her wiring is not talking to her wiring. There is a disconnect somewhere in the operating system. Blueface is not in love with Chrisean Rock. Blueface is in love with the number on the invoice. And the sooner Chrisean Rock realizes the number on the invoice is the only thing keeping Blueface in the room, the sooner Chrisean Rock might stop offering him ammunition every time the camera turns red. You can see it play out on tape. Blueface takes Chrisean Rock to Burberry, drops a 5-figure receipt, and instead of a woman soaking in the moment, you get a woman shadowboxing between the mannequins like she is about to open a card on pay-per-view. Chrisean Rock is not shopping. Chrisean Rock is performing. She is dancing. She is throwing hooks at a man who just paid her tab. She is telling the camera she did not even want the jacket, and she is doing all of it in front of a store clerk who has quietly wondered whether he should call somebody. Taking Chrisean Rock into a luxury store on Livestream is like walking a Wolverine on a sugar high through a room full of crystal. Something is going to break. Somebody is going to end up on the floor. And Blueface, credit where credit is due, knows exactly what he brought into the building. Blueface brought the Wolverine because the Wolverine is what pays the rent. That is the setup. That is the machine. Blueface understands the machine. Chrisean Rock does not. And that is the reason this whole thing was destined to detonate the second the cameras started running. Watch what happens next, because this is where the algorithm-friendly chaos turns into the kind of chaos your lawyer files under Exhibit A. Blueface, tired of the noise, tired of the shoving, tired of the flexing, tells Chrisean Rock to fall back. He tells her the reason they are out is the stream. He tells her the reason they are out is the check. He tells her, essentially, that this is a job. And Chrisean Rock, unable to sit inside that reality for even a second, decides the correct response is to escalate. She calls him weak. She calls him fake. She calls him a shell. And then, on a wide-open camera, Chrisean Rock starts hinting that Blueface has bodies. Not one. Not a fight. Bodies. As in more than one person, no longer alive, allegedly at his hands. Now stop the tape right there. Because what Chrisean Rock did next is what the whole culture is still trying to process. Chrisean Rock did not stop at accusing Blueface. Chrisean Rock, in the middle of her own defense of that accusation, ended up dropping a line that put her own name into the frame. Chrisean Rock, in her rebuttal, said she has hands too. Chrisean Rock said she has put people down. Chrisean Rock said she is not scared of anybody walking this earth. And then, when the internet caught fire, Chrisean Rock tried to walk it back and swore she was just talking. That is the pattern. Accuse. Escalate. Retreat. Deny. Rinse. Repeat. And that pattern on a live stream in the year 2026, in an era where every clip becomes a court exhibit, is not a pattern that ends in a Grammy. That pattern ends in a subpoena. And that pulls the story right back to Ronnie. Because we cannot talk about Chrisean Rock throwing the word bodies around like confetti without talking about Ronnie. Ronnie is the name a lot of the audience wants everyone to forget. Ronnie is the name that keeps knocking on the door every time Chrisean Rock opens her mouth on live stream. Ronnie is the father Chrisean Rock spent months insisting was not the father. Ronnie is the man who asked, on record, for a paternity test. Ronnie is the man who, not long after asking for that paternity test, was no longer alive. And Ronnie is the reason a certain kind of viewer and a certain kind of investigator keeps rewinding these live streams and taking notes. Nobody is convicting anybody in this script. Nobody is filing charges from a YouTube comment section. But let us be honest with the tape. Chrisean Rock, on camera, said she has done things. Chrisean Rock, on camera, said Blueface has done things. Chrisean Rock, on camera, tied both of them together in the same sentence, in the same breath, in front of the same audience that will be called if any of this ever moves from the timeline into the courtroom. That is not a small thing. That is the kind of thing that stops being entertainment the moment a badge shows up at the door. Blueface, for his part, is playing a different game entirely. Blueface has stepped back from Chrisean Rock's spiral and painted himself as the calm one, the amused one, the one just trying to get to his September 19th fight in one piece. Blueface is on tape saying he has never killed anybody. Blueface is on tape saying Chrisean Rock is only speaking out of anger. Blueface is on tape trying to de-escalate, at least when the mic is close enough to catch it. Whether any of that is real or whether all of that is theater, Blueface understands one thing Chrisean Rock refuses to understand. Blueface understands that in the streaming era, the tape never dies. The tape gets clipped. The tape gets uploaded. The tape gets subpoenaed. The tape gets played back to a jury with the audio at full volume and the lights turned low. Chrisean Rock does not seem to understand that. Chrisean Rock is still operating like this is a diary entry. Chrisean Rock is still operating like a live stream is a private conversation between her and her chat. Chrisean Rock is still operating like the internet forgets. It does not. And the more she opens her mouth on that stream, the deeper the hole gets under her feet. Now here is where the story sharpens, and here is where I want everybody watching to pay attention. Because the profit machine that Blueface built with Chrisean Rock is the exact same profit machine that is going to make it impossible for either of them to walk any of this back. Every viral outburst adds $1 to the account. Every shopping meltdown adds $1 to the account. Every accusation, every confession, every threat, every apology adds $1 to the account. And every single one of those dollars, every single one of those clips, every single one of those uploads sits in a searchable database that any prosecutor with a laptop can pull down in an afternoon. Blueface knows this. That is why Blueface keeps his hands visible in the frame. That is why Blueface keeps repeating that he was joking. That is why Blueface keeps saying over and over that he has never killed anybody. Blueface is not just talking to the chat. Blueface is talking to whatever future courtroom might replay this footage. Blueface is building his own defense while Chrisean Rock is out here reading her own indictment out loud. The shopping trip itself deserves a slower look because the shopping trip is the microcosm of the whole arrangement. Chrisean Rock is inside a luxury store. Chrisean Rock is being handed things she did not ask for. Chrisean Rock is being told, on camera, that today is her day. And Chrisean Rock, unable to receive a gift like a normal adult, decides to spar with the man buying the gift. It is not cute. It is not playful. It is the kind of misfire that tells you something about the wiring. It is the kind of moment a therapist would freeze frame and circle in red. And Blueface, throughout, keeps that half smile on his face. Blueface knows the shot he needs. Blueface waits for the moment where Chrisean Rock swings wide, and then Blueface calmly resets her stance, corrects her footwork, and turns the whole scene into a viral clip that pays for itself within the hour. Chrisean Rock believes that scene was love. Chrisean Rock is wrong. That scene was content. That scene was inventory. That scene was Blueface withdrawing another $60,000 from the account he opened the day he realized Chrisean Rock cannot regulate her own emotions on camera. Now let us get back to the argument that broke out later on that same stream, because that is where the entire evening turned. Blueface, at some point, wanted to move on. He wanted to play a song. He wanted to acknowledge the other people in the room. Chrisean Rock, feeling ignored, snapped. Chrisean Rock started making it about her card. About her ID. About her $10,000. About her service. About her afternoon. Chrisean Rock accused Blueface of bad customer service, as if the man was a barista instead of the father of one of her children. Chrisean Rock kept demanding a deep breath. Chrisean Rock kept demanding a TV get turned off. Chrisean Rock kept demanding, essentially, that the entire universe orbit around her mood. Blueface, tired, stepped away. Blueface, tired, called her manly. Blueface, tired, made the vagina crack that lit up every timeline on the internet within about 15 minutes. And Chrisean Rock, instead of laughing it off, instead of firing back with a punchline, instead of doing the reality show thing and turning it into a bit, decided the correct move was to remind Blueface that she knows what he has done. Chrisean Rock decided the correct move was to bring up dark energy. Chrisean Rock decided the correct move was to look into the camera and say, and I am paraphrasing here because the quote itself is now everywhere, that she knows why he feels the way he feels, that she knows what he carries, that she knows how many people he has caught. That was not a fight with your boyfriend line. That was a life-changing sentence. And Chrisean Rock said it out loud, in high definition, with the mic 6 inches from her mouth, in front of a camera that was rolling to every corner of the planet at once. That is not a diss. That is not a bar. That is a statement of alleged fact on a live broadcast. That is the kind of sentence that lawyers watch on loop while eating dinner. And once Chrisean Rock said it once, Chrisean Rock said it again. And again. And when the internet finally started asking her to walk it back, Chrisean Rock did what Chrisean Rock always does. Chrisean Rock said she never said it. Chrisean Rock said she was misunderstood. Chrisean Rock said she was just talking out of anger. Chrisean Rock said she was fake hitting him. Chrisean Rock said she never really meant that Blueface killed anybody. Chrisean Rock said she was only trying to hurt his ego. But the tape does not lie. The tape rolls at the same speed the words come out. The tape has no reason to bend. But the tape does not care about anger. The tape does not care about intent. The tape does not care whether Chrisean Rock was in a mood or in her feelings. The tape only cares about what was said. And what was said on that stream, in that hotel, in that room, is the sort of thing that shows up in evidence bags. The tape is the coldest witness in the room. The tape has no allegiance. The tape does not know either of them. The tape does not have a favorite artist. The tape will play in front of a judge with the same emotion it plays in front of a chat, which is none at all. And that is the point Chrisean Rock keeps missing. Chrisean Rock keeps behaving as if the microphone in front of her is a diary. It is not a diary. It is a witness stand. Meanwhile, Chrisean Rock is over here trying to convince the world she is a changed woman. Chrisean Rock is trying to sell a redemption arc. Chrisean Rock keeps talking about her fight camp. Chrisean Rock keeps talking about training. Chrisean Rock keeps talking about September 19th and how focused she is. But then, in the middle of that redemption pitch, Chrisean Rock gets caught in another lie, and this one is uglier than the first. Chrisean Rock, on a separate stream not too long ago, tried to explain away the videos of her drinking a bottle in a club while visibly pregnant. Chrisean Rock said it was juice. Chrisean Rock said everyone got it wrong. Chrisean Rock said she does not open up about her son. Chrisean Rock leaned into that little half smile she does when she is trying to convince the room she is telling the truth, and the room, for a second, wanted to believe her. The room always wants to believe her. That is the trick. And then, a couple of clips later, Chrisean Rock is on tape saying she can abort the child tomorrow and it will not hurt her. Chrisean Rock is on tape acknowledging she was drinking. Chrisean Rock is on tape being reminded, by her own circle, that the last time she was pregnant everybody was smoking and drinking in the same room she was sitting in. Chrisean Rock is the only one still trying to sell the version of the story where the bottle was juice. And the internet is not stupid. The internet ran that clip through slow motion. The internet freeze-framed the label. The internet timestamped the pour. The internet built a case in a comment thread that no PR person on earth is going to undo before the next headline drops. That is what I mean when I say Chrisean Rock cannot stop confessing. Chrisean Rock does not confess in interrogation rooms. Chrisean Rock confesses on live streams, in club footage, in shopping trips, in fights, in reconciliations, in apologies. And every confession stacks on top of the last one. And every stack tightens the wall around her a little more. Chrisean Rock is building the walls of her own case with her own 2 hands and calling it content. Chrisean Rock is turning her mouth into a courtroom exhibit and monetizing the process every step of the way. There is not a publicist alive who could design a worse strategy on purpose. Now Blueface, again, is running a completely different playbook. Blueface is playing the long con. Blueface is going to keep pulling up on Chrisean Rock for as long as the check's clear, and Blueface is going to keep de-escalating on camera every time she opens a door he does not want opened. Blueface is not confused. Blueface is not in love. Blueface is not delusional. Blueface is booked, paid, and coached. And Blueface is watching Chrisean Rock write her own indictment in bullet points on a live stream in real time. Blueface is a chess player pretending to be a checkers player, and Chrisean Rock has not even set the board up right yet. The Zeus of it all is another layer. There is a deal on the table, allegedly worth close to $1 million, that reportedly kept the entire Chrisean Rock and Blueface public relationship arc alive for months. If any of these accusations against either of them ever crystallize into something the state can move on, that deal is toast. The paychecks are toast. The livestream money is toast. The Burberry runs are toast. The $60,000 afternoons are toast. And the only party in a position to survive that collapse is the party who has been quietly building a defense the entire time. That party is not Chrisean Rock. That party is the man standing next to Chrisean Rock in every single one of these shopping trips, letting her yell, letting her swing, letting her confess, and then calmly walking out of the store with a bag full of receipts and a face like nothing ever happened. That is the machine at its cruelest. Chrisean Rock is the fuel and Blueface is the driver, and when the car finally crashes, the driver has an airbag and the fuel does not. The driver walks out of the accident with a scratch, a lawsuit, and a new manager. The fuel does not walk out at all. That is the arithmetic. Chrisean Rock does not do arithmetic when the camera is on. Chrisean Rock does emotion. And emotion, in a criminal case, is not a defense. Emotion is context. And context, when the tape is bad enough, is worse than silence. Here's the part that keeps me up. Chrisean Rock is a person. Chrisean Rock is a mother. Chrisean Rock is somebody's daughter. And Chrisean Rock, whether she believes it or not, is being handled. Chrisean Rock has become a character on somebody else's show, and she does not realize the writers do not care whether the character lives or dies as long as the ratings hold. That is not love. That is not partnership. That is not a comeback. That is a body count waiting for a caption. That is a headline waiting for a date. That is a mugshot waiting for a lighting setup. And Chrisean Rock, every single time she opens her mouth on stream, is voluntarily moving the date on that mugshot closer to today. I have watched Chrisean Rock go through cycles. Chrisean Rock disappears. Chrisean Rock rebrands. Chrisean Rock finds religion. Chrisean Rock drops a gospel track. Chrisean Rock says she is done with Blueface. Chrisean Rock says she is done with the streets. And then, without fail, the same phone rings and the same offer comes in and Chrisean Rock says yes, because the money is real and the attention feels like love. And every time Chrisean Rock says yes, Chrisean Rock adds another clip to the archive, another quote to the record, another moment for a stranger with a badge to review at a desk somewhere. Chrisean Rock is in a loop she cannot see the shape of, and every time she closes one door, 3 more open behind her, and each of those doors leads to another room where somebody with a stopwatch is timing her spiral. The Blueface killer bar keeps circling back too, because if any of what Chrisean Rock alleged on that stream ever gets pulled into a real investigation, Blueface has already positioned himself to say the exact opposite is true. Blueface has already logged, on tape, that he has never done what she is accusing him of. Blueface has, on tape, said she is only saying it because she is upset. Blueface has, on tape, tried to change the subject the moment she opened it. That is not the behavior of a man who did not think about the audience listening. That is the behavior of a man who understood the audience listening might one day be sitting behind a bench. Blueface has been building his alibi in 15-second increments for months, and Chrisean Rock has been building nothing but a rap sheet she does not know she is signing. And Chrisean Rock, for all her volume, is not that strategic. Chrisean Rock is not defending anything. Chrisean Rock is announcing. Chrisean Rock is confessing. Chrisean Rock is threatening. Chrisean Rock is escalating. And Chrisean Rock is doing it in front of a live audience that includes, statistically, at least a few people who would love nothing more than to walk a printout of a transcript into a police station. And in 2026, a printout of a transcript is admissible. A screenshot is admissible. A screen recording is admissible. The rules have caught up with the platforms, and the platforms are the last people to tell you that. I want to slow down for a second and address the fans. The Chrisean Rock supporters. The people in every comment section defending her, telling everybody she has grown, telling everybody the streams are jokes, telling everybody the internet has been unfair. I hear you. I have heard you for years. I understand the appeal. Chrisean Rock has charisma. Chrisean Rock has moments where she looks like the underdog everybody wants to root for. Chrisean Rock has that voice, that stare, that boxing footwork, that stage presence when she is not swinging on somebody in a Burberry. There is a version of this story where Chrisean Rock is the hero. There is a version of this story where Chrisean Rock is on a magazine cover next year, sober, focused, holding her son, with a title belt on the wall behind her. That version of the story exists. It is just not the version Chrisean Rock is filming. But we are not in that version anymore. We passed that version around the moment Chrisean Rock started using the word bodies as a verbal weapon on a live stream. We passed that version around the moment Chrisean Rock decided her big power move was to threaten Blueface with knowledge of alleged crimes. We passed that version around the moment Chrisean Rock, again, on a completely different stream, joked about ending a pregnancy the same week her fans were telling everybody she is a devoted mom. Whatever version of Chrisean Rock the fans are protecting in the comments, that version is not the one showing up on the live streams. And the live stream version is the one that lives in the search bar forever. The live stream version is the one that gets emailed to executives. The live stream version is the one that gets subpoenaed. And the live stream version is the one Chrisean Rock is going to have to defend, sentence by sentence, one day, in a room with no chat window and no mute button. Now let us talk about what happens next, because this is the part everybody is waiting for. Chrisean Rock has a fight on September 19th. Chrisean Rock has a redemption arc she is trying to sell. Chrisean Rock has a public relationship she is trying to relaunch. Chrisean Rock has a co-parenting narrative she is trying to control. And Chrisean Rock has, whether she wants to face it or not, an internet full of amateur investigators who are stitching timeline entries together into a case file. Something has to give. Either Chrisean Rock goes cold, cuts the live streams, kills the Blueface content, focuses on the fight, and lets the noise die. Or Chrisean Rock keeps feeding the beast, keeps showing up on stream, keeps hanging out with Blueface, keeps taking the shopping money, keeps making the same headlines, and eventually the noise turns into a knock at the door. The odds of Chrisean Rock going cold are somewhere between slim and none. The money is too good. The attention is too addictive. The relationship is too codependent. And Blueface is not letting go of a partner who prints 60 grand in an afternoon. That means the Chrisean Rock story is about to get worse before it gets better. And the next few weeks, in my honest opinion, are the ones the culture will remember. The next few weeks are the ones people will point at years from now when they talk about the moment the whole balloon popped. And the popping sound, if you listen carefully, is already audible in the background of every recent stream. Chrisean Rock hears it. Chrisean Rock just does not want to name it. Blueface is going to keep dangling the entanglement talk. Blueface is going to keep threatening to see other women. Blueface is going to keep needling Chrisean Rock until she snaps, because when Chrisean Rock snaps, the timeline eats, and when the timeline eats, the check's clear. Chrisean Rock is going to keep going public. Chrisean Rock is going to keep crying on livestream. Chrisean Rock is going to keep swearing off Blueface and then meeting Blueface at the next hotel 3 days later. Chrisean Rock is going to keep saying she is done streaming and then powering up the ring light the next morning. That loop is not a bug. That loop is the whole system. That loop is what Blueface built. That loop is what Chrisean Rock cannot see the walls of. And somewhere inside that loop, Chrisean Rock is going to say one more thing. One more sentence. One more sentence about a body. One more sentence about a name. One more sentence about a night nobody wants to revisit. And that one sentence, if it lands wrong, if it names the wrong person, if it references the wrong date, if it hints at the wrong location, is the sentence that ends this whole run. Not the fight. Not the album. Not the podcast. All of it. The house, the deal, the tour, the label, the manager, the endorsements, the streams, the followers, all of it. One sentence in one clip on one afternoon when Chrisean Rock is too tired and too high on her own outrage to remember that the microphone is not a friend. That is the corner Chrisean Rock is standing in. And Chrisean Rock is not standing in that corner alone. Blueface is standing in that same corner. Blueface corner, however, is padded. Blueface corner has a lawyer on retainer, a manager on speed dial, and a stack of on-camera denials that already form the skeleton of a defense. Chrisean Rock's corner has a ring light and a chat window. Blueface corner has a plan. Chrisean Rock's corner has a mood. And in a fight between a plan and a mood, the mood loses every single time. So the actual question underneath all of this, the one nobody in her camp wants to answer, is simple. Is Chrisean Rock going to be smart enough to sit down before she says the sentence that finishes her? Or is Chrisean Rock going to keep filming, keep quoting, keep threatening, keep confessing, until the state finally has enough to move? That is not a rhetorical question. That is not a comment bait question. That is the question. That is the whole video in one sentence. And the fact that nobody around her is asking it out loud, on stream, to her face, is the loudest sign of how much money is at stake and how little her actual well-being matters to the people cashing the checks. Because make no mistake, the state is watching. The state does not need to be tipped off. The state has YouTube. The state has TikTok. The state has Instagram. The state has every single live stream Chrisean Rock has ever run archived somewhere in a folder. And the state, historically, does not care whether you were joking. The state cares whether you said it, whether you meant it, and whether anybody died in a way that matches your words. The state does not need a confession under fluorescent lights. The state will happily take a confession under a ring light. The state is not picky about lighting. Ronnie is the shadow over this whole arc. Ronnie is the reason Chrisean Rock cannot afford to be flippant on livestream anymore. Ronnie is the reason every single body remark from Chrisean Rock, every single threat from Chrisean Rock, every single boast from Chrisean Rock, hits differently in 2026 than it would have hit in 2022. The internet has a memory. The internet has receipts. The internet has timestamps. The internet is a court reporter that never sleeps and never gets paid overtime. And Blueface, again, understands the internet has all of those things. That is why Blueface, every time Chrisean Rock says something dangerous, laughs it off, denies it clearly, and moves on. Blueface is not just performing calm. Blueface is performing exoneration. And Chrisean Rock is performing the opposite. Chrisean Rock is performing complicity. Chrisean Rock is performing knowledge. Chrisean Rock is performing threat. Two performances, same stage, opposite exits. One exit leads to a comeback. The other exit leads to a case file. There is one more thing I want to put on the table before I turn this back over to the comments, because I do not want to leave this unsaid. Chrisean Rock is somebody who has been open, publicly, about her mental state. Chrisean Rock has cried on camera about her family. Chrisean Rock has cried on camera about her brothers. Chrisean Rock has cried on camera about her son. Chrisean Rock is not a supervillain. Chrisean Rock is a young woman who has been chewed up by an industry that rewards her worst moments and ignores her best ones. That does not excuse what Chrisean Rock is putting on tape. That does not neutralize the confessions. But it should be part of the conversation. Because if the state does move, if the state does start pulling clips, if the state does start knocking on doors, the woman standing on the other side of that door is a woman who has been begging for somebody to intervene for years. And nobody did. And the industry did not. And Blueface did not. And Zeus did not. And the streaming ecosystem did not. Everybody watched. Everybody laughed. Everybody hit the like button. Everybody cashed the check. And now the check may be coming due, and the person holding the bill is the same person nobody protected. That is the tragedy inside the comedy of Chrisean Rock. That is the horror inside the entertainment of Chrisean Rock. That is the reason why, even when Chrisean Rock is at her most infuriating on stream, there is a part of the story that refuses to become funny. Because underneath all the bodies talk, underneath all the Burberry boxing, underneath all the boyfriend drama, is a young woman screaming into a microphone that nobody in her life is protecting her from herself. And the internet, instead of protecting her, is pointing a camera at her and pressing record. And every time Chrisean Rock cries, the view count goes up. And every time the view count goes up, the incentive to keep her crying goes up. And every time the incentive to keep her crying goes up, the odds of a real intervention go down. That is the loop nobody in her corner has the money to break. Blueface is holding the camera. Zeus is holding the check. The chat is holding the popcorn. And Chrisean Rock is holding a lit match over a puddle of gasoline she has been pouring on herself for 3 years. And the puddle is getting deeper. And the match is getting hotter. And the room is starting to smell like something the fire department shows up to. Drop your read on this in the comments. I want to hear from the fans, from the skeptics, from the people who have been calling this from day one. Do you think Chrisean Rock is putting herself in criminal jeopardy on these live streams? Do you think Blueface is deliberately positioning himself for exoneration? Do you think Ronnie's name is going to come back around before the fight? Do you think the Zeus deal survives this arc? Do you think this whole thing is scripted and everybody is going to be laughing about it on a podcast 6 months from now? Tell me. Because whatever you say in that comment section is where the next video starts. And before the video ends, I want to leave you with one more thought. Chrisean Rock has an out. There is still a version of the next 30 days where Chrisean Rock stops streaming, cuts contact with Blueface, focuses on the fight, apologizes for the drinking clip, apologizes for the abortion clip, apologizes for the bodies clip, and takes the year off. That version exists. That version is not likely, but that version exists. And the reason I mention it is because if Chrisean Rock is watching, if somebody around Chrisean Rock is watching, if any single person with access to Chrisean Rock is watching, this is the last exit before the highway turns into a tunnel with no lights. Take it. Take it now. Take it before the next live stream. Because the next live stream, based on the pattern, is going to have one more sentence that changes everything. And when that sentence gets clipped, and when that sentence gets uploaded, and when that sentence gets subpoenaed, there will not be another exit ramp. There will not be a second warning. There will not be a third redemption arc. There will only be footage, and the footage will speak for itself, and the footage will not be kind. Blueface will land on his feet. Blueface always does. Zeus will move on. The chat will move on. The timeline will move on. The only person on this list who cannot afford another slip is Chrisean Rock. And the only person on this list who keeps slipping is Chrisean Rock. That is the collision. That is the story. That is the reason this stream, this fight, this shopping trip, this argument, this body's remark, all of it, is not just another cycle in the Chrisean Rock reality show. It is the cycle where the reality show stops being a show and becomes something the state watches with the sound turned all the way up. It is the cycle where the entertainment gets a case number. It is the cycle where the punchline gets a witness list. It is the cycle where the joke stops being funny for everybody except the people who never thought it was funny in the first place. So tell me where you land. Tell me whether you think Chrisean Rock walks this back or whether Chrisean Rock keeps digging. Tell me whether you think Blueface is a genius or a monster or both. Tell me whether you think Ronnie ever gets justice. Tell me whether you think any of this ends in a courtroom or whether all of it ends in another music video with a title we all pretend not to see. I will be reading every comment. I will be pulling clips. I will be right back here the second the next live stream drops. And based on the pattern, based on the checks, based on the Wolverine energy Chrisean Rock cannot seem to put down, that next live stream is coming a lot sooner than any of us are ready for. Stay tuned. Stay locked in. And do not blink when the next clip drops, because the next clip, based on everything we have seen so far, is the one that changes the whole shape of this story for good.